19C, Commission General Regulation 14-10 VGA quotas 2014-2015. We'll run like we usually do, Mike, and you kind of take over from here, and we'll make motions and keep going.
All right, adaptive management at its finest this morning. Mike Cox, Big Game staff biologist for Nevada Department of Wildlife. And co-chairing this session will be Cody Schroeder, our mule deer staff specialist. Well, we also have our regional supervisors in the audience to help with questions specific to certain units or species throughout the state. And on particular, this first species, black bear, for Commission Regulation 14-10, we're setting the quotas for tag holders and the harvest objectives for the number of bears, maximum bears to be harvested. We have Carl Lackey available to answering questions. So before you, you have the resident, non-resident quotas and harvest objectives. Those are the same as last year. So if you have any questions, I'm probably going to defer to Carl Lackey or Mike Dole.
Okay, any questions with the commission? No questions with the commission. Let's go to public comment, and then we might have some questions from the commission after public comment. Well, let's start with public comment in Las Vegas. Any public comment in Las Vegas?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, any public comment in Elko? No public comment in Elko. Public comment in Reno? Mr. Moley.
Mr. Chairman, Don Moley, I just, being new to this process, I just have a question. I don't understand the difference between the 41 quota and the 20 harvest objective. It seems to me in the last 3 years there's been a cutoff of 20 bears. That was where the hunt would end. I'm not clear from this if that's still the same situation or not. Furthermore, it seems to me that this is somewhat premature, just like the discussion about season length, and that you haven't even finished your 3-year review yet. And this implies that there will be a hunt, even though that decision has not yet been made. So I simply register my objection that this is a bit of a sham, and I don't know what else to say about it. It's kind of silly that this has to occur before you finish the 3-year review, and that's part of what we were talking about yesterday with Mr. Cates, where this system sometimes can't walk and chew gum at the same time. So I don't know what we're doing here. But I just want to be clear that this 20 is the absolute limit. If there is a season, that's what this table means. And I don't understand it to be that. That's what I'm asking. Any comments?
We're in public comment now, so we'll probably answer that question.
Yeah, I would appreciate
it. Sean?
Sean Shea, Washoe Cap. We passed this 2-1, with one opposing this, and but we just wanted to make sure 204 was in this because the way it was written up originally, Unit 204 was not in this. So we did approve this.
Kathy Smith, I saw your hand up earlier.
Kathy Smith, Arena, Nevada. I already have no doubts that the quota will not change from previous years, as the overwhelming majority of the commission is not persuadable. But I want to remind all of you that persistent deficiencies in the data at this point. Our population is said to be growing at a remarkable rate of 16% per year due to in situ recruitment of juvenile bears and immigration from California. Do we know what the immigration is from California? It has not been discussed. And I know we're studying this now or in the future. We know that the California bear population is growing at less than 3 to 4% per year on average over the last 20 years if you look at the best fit curve. We also know that comparisons to our annual growth rate documented in a recently published article are all lower than the 16% here, ranging from 9 to 13%, and they were all in states with much better bear habitat, including Arkansas, West Virginia, North Carolina, and Virginia. So why are the bears running to Nevada for less desirable habitat? To avoid the taxes? Why are we hunting without knowing immigration rates from California? Should the department have to provide this information before a hunt on a small population in the edge of a species, in the edge of a population proceeds? We don't know the population or density in each hunt unit or even in the mountain range. We are one of the few states that does not have a quota based on hunt unit population. Unfortunately, the mountain ranges with the lower bear densities seem to have more access for vehicles, allowing for an easier hunt, which may lead to overexploitation in these areas. We are also in our third year of drought, the most severe this year. Decreased food availability not only increases home ranges of bears, so bears have to work harder, it can also result in reproductive failure. Then our bears can be chased by hounds when preparing for hibernation, further decreasing their fitness. All of these things combined will result in a population decrease. We know that droughts and fires are expected to occur at greater frequency. In fact, California has published the anticipated westward migration of good bear habitat. Hunting small edge populations is inherently risky. The department has a matrix based on age and sex ratios to prevent overharvest. There is ample research demonstrating that population decreases are difficult to detect in small populations. Nevada has the added problem of having an edge population, which are typically predominantly male. Here the ratio is reported to be 2 males for every female. How well does the matrix work when it looks at ratios of males in a predominantly male population? Bear populations are much harder to estimate than ungulates. Can you even fathom hunting mule deer, elk, sheep with this degree of uncertainty, depending on immigration, which we only think is happening? Would you just blindly accept a much higher than average growth rate without confirmatory science as to why? What's going to happen when we have a good year for snow? Will the bears retract into California where the bear habitat is better? In summary, should we confirm our results before we act on them? Shouldn't we make certain that we first don't do any harm to a species before it's hunted? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martin?
Good morning, Doug Martin with the Carson Cab. The Carson Cab supports the quotas as proposed, but we did have a discussion on the objective. And for 2 reasons, we would like to just eliminate the objective. For the simple reasons that the objective has never been obtained, no more than 15 bears have ever been harvested. And the second one, we think it adds a confusion and it might put more pressure early in the season. So we're just supportive of the quotas, but we think it's time to remove the objective because the objective is being achieved through the harvest. Thank you very much.
Rex?
Rex Flowers, Washoe County, speaking on behalf of myself. I was the vote against the quotas. I think if you look at the big game status book, 6 pages in there documenting everything that's happened on bears. Any other wild game species we have, they're looking to get 3 subsections, those being habitat, or population status, or population status and trend, and survey. We've hunted them now for 3 years. We've, according to policy 24, I believe it is, we are at a point where we can do a 3-year average. Our average is 29%. 29%, gentlemen, gives you 69 tags, not 45. We also have, looking at the data, our 2013 harvest mean age was greater than the 3-year average for mean age. Males was 6.1 compared to 5.4 on an average. Females 7.8 compared to 7.0. Females in harvest recorded as a light harvest. Hunter participation. We have increased applicants. 2011, 1,156 applicants. 2012, 1,762 applicants, 52% increase. 2013, 2,021 applicants, 15% over prior, 75% over 2011. I am not suggesting you go to 69 tags. I would recommend a resident tag quota of 51, non-resident of 5. This is a compromise. I'm only asking to see half of it go up to afford the hunters a little more opportunity. Again, the management of all wildlife, including quotas, should continue to be based on science and policy, not politics and emotion. Thank you.
Josh?
Josh Vittori, Washington County Sportsman, on behalf of myself. I just want to comment that I support the quotas as presented. I've shared some of my thoughts with the commission already on some of the issues associated with black bear hunting. And although I really think these could be revised to be more reflective of all the hard work and studying that the Department of Wildlife has done of our bear populations, I thoroughly support them today, and I would just urge the commission to not make any actions that will restrict hunter opportunity or further regulate this already highly regulated hunt. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission. Any questions after public comment? Commissioner Drew?
Mike, I don't know that we need Carl for this, but to Dr. Moldy's point, the way I understand this, the bear harvest objective is 20. So if we reach harvest of 20, the season is effectively over. That's what you're presenting to us today.
Correct. It's similar to our mountain lion pursuit and hunting seasons where we have a sizable tag quota, but hunters are required every morning to call the 800 number to confirm that the harvest objective has not been met, and if it has, the season ceases.
Commissioner McNinch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this one might be more for Carl. What kind of coordination has been done with California to true up? I think you've answered that before for us, Carl, but I want to ask again. So.
Carl Lackey, Department of Wildlife, for the record. What are you asking?
You know, we've got these, these interstate mule deer herds, and we coordinate with Utah for, Rocky Mountain bighorns. And so my question is, what kind of coordination have we done with California with regards to numbers and hunting? Because there is evidence that they're going back and forth a little bit. I know you're studying that. So I'm just asking, what kind of coordination have we done with the state of California?
Well, no formal coordination on our black bear hunt. We discuss the issues, we discuss the research with their biologists and their supervisors, but they don't necessarily have any input into our harvest limits or our harvest objectives in our season. It's nothing formal.
Have you talked to them about movements and any marked animals that they've had, any amount?
Sure. We have an MOU with California, had that for several years now. When our tag bears show up in California, either in conflicts or in their hunt or however it happens to be, they notify me. We recently had a bear of theirs tagged show up on the Nevada side. So yes, we discuss the mark recapture stuff. We discuss research, and we've been asked to cooperate with them at times on their recent bear studies that Mario was doing in the basin.
During those discussions, Carl, have they offered any concern with Nevada having a black bear hunt?
No, not at all. I mean, when they're looking at before they eliminated the use of dogs, They were looking at 1,500, 1,700 bears a year. I think our dozen or so bears that are killed is pretty insignificant as far as they're concerned. We are right in the middle of that heritage project with University of Nevada, Reno, and using the DNA that we've been collecting over a decade to look at genetic distribution of our bears and how they relate to bears in the sphere of Nevada. And I know Marjorie has been discussing getting samples from California and from Paul Ernst.
Commissioner Macbeth?
Carl, what has been the impact of the not using dogs on the harvest rate in California?
It dropped. I don't have exact figures. I want to say they harvested just over 1,000 bears last year without the use of dogs, but I haven't seen all the numbers.
And will that have an impact on the growth rate in California?
Too early to say. That's really hard to say, yeah.
Commissioner Drew?
Carl, I think I asked you this in the committee meeting a couple months ago, but I'll ask it again. Have you seen anything in the harvest results, your check-ins, your collared, you have satellite collared bears now in the pine nuts and some of the kind of more rural hunt units, I guess you'd say. Do you see anything at this point that has shown a negative effect on the population or anything that raises a red flag or any concerns from your standpoint on the structure of the hunt that has been recommended today?
No, there's nothing that's indicated in our data, in the hunt data, or in our population estimates over the last few years that would indicate anything, any changes necessary.
And do you have any concerns, being that we are going into a multi-year drought, anything regarding drought or limited habitat?
Not at this point, no. I mean, when you look at our bear population and how it's increased over the last 30 years, this isn't the only drought we've experienced. We've experienced longer periods of drought than this, certainly, and it doesn't seem to have affected the bear population.
Commissioner McNinch?
Carl, so the harvest objective, is that more in place to maintain aspects of the conservativeness of the hunt, or is that necessary to manage the population?
The harvest objective really should be considered a harvest limit. We placed that on initially, again, very conservative harvest limit. And as Mike Cox indicated, the hunt would close as soon as 20 bears were killed, which hasn't happened yet. The number of tags, again, was established back in 2011 based on Utah's success rate. And again, very, very conservatively. But as someone else mentioned, we haven't finished the 3-year review as mandated by the legislature. We were a little reluctant to make any recommended changes until that review is complete.
Commissioner McBeth?
And Carl, just following up on that, my recollection, going back to the big, when we set the first season in this harvest objective, that actually it was 50%, is my recollection, 50% of what we actually estimated is what we could have as a limit or as a harvest.
Yeah, well, we put in place the conservative boundaries such as success rate, and to maintain population sustainability, we determined at that time, and this was back before the population had continued to grow, we set that at 40, and we cut it in half, so we were extra conservative. Since that time, we believe the population has grown, not necessarily at 16%. That was for the first 12 years of the study, but it looks like it's continued to grow. So, again, we have very, very conservative harvest limits.
Commissioner Lane?
Carl, I guess I would ask you a question, and I did not see it in, and I may have missed it in the review that you had, but of the problem bears that you transported to the pine nuts, I think a lot of those from the Tahoe area went to the pine nuts area, is that correct?
Can you turn your microphone around this way?
It's not activating. Okay, Okay, I guess my question to you, is the problem bears that you moved out of the Lake Tahoe area into the pine nuts, and I think I saw this somewhere or the other at some point, that a lot of bears were harvested out of the pine nuts, is that correct?
We've had yes, a significant portion of the bears harvested out of the pine nuts, but that's a common misconception. And I hear that a lot from residents in the pine nuts, that we take conflict bears and move them out of Tahoe into the pine nuts. That's not standard for us. We normally release bears in their home range. We don't translocate them. There are occasions where we've translocated bears from Tahoe to different parts of the state, not necessarily the pine nuts, for management purposes, knowing that they would make their way back to Tahoe. But no, we do not, as standard operating procedure, do not move bears into the pine nuts. They've established that population pretty much on their own.
So in other words, I guess my question to you is then that you're not seeing a high number of harvested bears that were transported out of one area to another. That's my question for you.
No. In 3 years of the hunt so far, we've had 4 of our marked bears taken in the hunt, and let me just go through them in my mind real quick. None of them were translocated, and they were pretty much taken in the areas, or close to the areas where they were marked.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, anybody have possible action? Commissioner Drew?
Yeah, just a quick, to address a couple things that I think I've received in correspondence. I've got correspondence pretty much opposed to the hunt. I think that came through Suzanne to the entire commission. I did get a correspondence early this morning. I'm not sure when it came into the email, from the Coalition of Nevada's Wildlife requesting an increase on the quota, but no change in the harvest objective. In being on the committee and looking at this, everything we've done to this point and all the safety valves that we've kind of hung our hat on, starting a brand new hunt, has been based on having a conservative quota as well as a conservative harvest objective. Given the fact that we're in the middle of our review, I'm not apt to change anything at this point. I don't think it makes any sense at all. There were a couple items brought up by CABS about including certain units back in, things of that nature. I think there were some recommendations on weapons. Those aren't things we can discuss today. I mean, we're basically, the way this is agendized, looking at quota and harvest objective, and I'm comfortable with where that's at. So just wanted to make sure I addressed, put on the record that there were correspondence received by this body and address some of those ideas and items.
Anybody else have anything? Anybody have a motion? Commissioner McBeth.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resident quota black bear any legal weapon hunt 6151 with a 2014 quota of 41, a non-resident quota black bear any legal weapon hunt 6251 with a 2000 quota of 4. 2014 quota, okay, 2014 quota of 4, and a black bear harvest objective, combined resident hunt 6151 and non-resident hunt 6251, 2014 harvest objective of 20.
We have a motion by Commissioner McBeth, second by Commissioner Wallace. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay. McNish and Lane are opposed.
Okay, next species up is pronghorn antelope. I wanted to just show a couple slides, graphs, and we'll probably get into a couple more as we move through the hunts. Apologize for those who can't see that x-axis, the years down the bottom. This is showing the population over the last decade statewide for our pronghorn. 2004, we were a little over 18,000. We somewhat crested at 27.5 last year. And, or actually 28,500 estimate. And we're slightly down this year. This is, I guess the graph I'm trying to portray is we've done a great job of filling in the gaps. The pronghorn themselves have done a great job of filling in the gaps. Pershing County hardly had any pronghorn a decade ago. Ken Gray can tell you stories of pronghorn that were barely existent north of Elko, and now is littered with pronghorn there. So I think we're seeing the herd responses to filling in all their habitat and establishing themselves where they can. On top of that, we're continuing to work with the landowners with alfalfa issues, pronghorn on alfalfa. So I think the long-term trend or the message is we've probably pretty much hit the carrying capacity of the existing habitat. Now, if that habitat has type changes with wildfires, changing mountain brush communities to perennial grasslands, we certainly might see that habitat carrying capacity increase and populations responding accordingly to that. But I think we are seeing things kind of leveling off. And in some herds that we'll talk about later, we probably have overshot their short-term habitats sustainability due to these drought conditions we've been experiencing and will likely continue to experience this summer. So I just wanted to kind of show that we've been really kicking a rear end and taking names, but I think we found a spot where our pronghorn are probably going to settle into. So those days of this great growth could be behind us. All right, so we're starting off with the pronghorn buck, any legal weapon, hunt 2151. We just had one alternative recommendation. Move back to the commission for consideration and public comment.
Before we go any further, it's been brought to my attention we have lost Las Vegas again.
They have audio, they just can't see.
They hear audio?
They have audio, but they don't.
Okay, so if they want to chime in, they can. So they are still able to participate, just can't see.
Can't see the PowerPoint, yeah.
Okay, all right, we're good, we're gonna keep going. Any questions of the commission on pronghorn? Okay, any public comment in Elko? I don't see anybody in Elko but staff. Any public comment in Las Vegas on our pronghorn?
No, Chairman. But Chairman, can you see us? No? Okay.
No.
All righty.
We'll fix that afterward.
Okay.
We can hear you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, as long as you can hear us, you can still participate, we're good. Any public comment in Reno? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission.
move to approve antelope horns longer than the ear, any legal weapon hunt 2151 as presented by the department.
We have a motion by Commissioner Drew. Who was the second? Commissioner Wallace. Any further discussion? Commissioner Macbeth?
We do have a comment. We went out to public on this,
Yeah, we did go to public comment.
and so, is it Douglas that, any tags in 032, 034, and 035? Okay, that's the only comment.
Okay. We still have a motion second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passed unanimous. Commissioner Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Something I meant to bring up before we even got started, that I had seen some comments from some of the cabs that in the support material, we didn't receive the 213 quota alongside in a column, alongside the 2014, so that we could kind of gauge as to which direction we were headed. And I didn't know, we've had that in the past, and I didn't know whether that slipped through the cracks or what ended up happening on that. But it was, the comment I want to make is it was helpful to have the 2013 quotas in there.
Yes,
was that on purpose?
It was brought up. I'm getting older and more senile. Certainly when I started, at some point way back when, I did, that was my intention, to provide that information to all of us. And it seems like over the years I've kind of lost track of things. This is a regulation. The other thing that came up was this is a regulation. I've been asked to try to keep them as clean as possible for that reason and not have too much extraneous information. But I can certainly, you see it here. It's just when it was printed, they were hidden. So I do think I'll make sure to do it next year.
I had also heard that comment from multiple people, and it's a good gauge because it's hard to go off of the numbers, not knowing year over year what's going on, so it is a help for us. Any other comments before we move on? All right.
Okay, the next hunt is the muzzleloader buck pronghorn hunt on 2171. Pretty small tag numbers. We've got a small but probably die-hard applicant base, so there has been a slight increase. So that's where you see muzzleloader tags going up, yet archery and rifle are going slightly down, and that's just simply the demand.
Can we go over archery at the same time? Maybe we can get them both out of the way at the same time.
As many as you want in the same motion, I'm fine. And archery, again, I said there was a slight decrease, pretty much flowing through that demand success process.
All right, any questions from the commission on muzzleloader or archery animal? Seeing none, any public comment in Elko or Las Vegas? Seeing none, any public comment in Reno? Okay, I'll bring it back to the commission.
I got a motion, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve resident antelope hunt
You don't have to push the button, just talk, yeah.
Longhorns longer than ears, muzzleloader hunt, 2171. Resident antelope, horns longer than ears, archery hunt, 2161, as recommended by the commission, the department.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Young, second by Commissioner Wallace. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passed unanimous.
Next hunt is our horns shorter than ears, focused on our female pronghorn does, hunt 2181. And I wanted to bring up a few more graphs, but you can see we have almost a 30% increase in statewide. And that's primarily 041, 042, and 101 unit group, and then the 141 through 156 in Central Nevada, large unit group. So I have a graph of the Western Pershing County pronghorn herd 041, 042. The triangles showing the population estimate, or excuse me, let me go back to the oh, that's all I have. I thought I had the estimate, but I don't. So this is the, I guess, harvest. I was labeled wrong, so excuse my mislabeling. That y-axis is the population estimate. Said earlier that we really never had much for pronghorn over 15, 20 years ago, and they found it probably from the 92, 93 period, and they just kept growing and growing. So that thing has had a steady growth rate over the years, and just recently we've started seeing that thing top out and possibly pushing back a little bit. In 2014, we are estimating a drop in that from when it was over 1,800 to around 1,700. The blue dots are the observed fawn ratios for that herd. Most of those, if not all of them, have been ground surveys. Our biologists they really do a great job of trying to get as big a sample size as we can, distributed across the entire unit group. And it's been erratic, but let me show you trend line, polynomial trend line that is representing the somewhat average of all those points that are scattered up and down. And generally what we're seeing is pretty steady average recruitment above 35 to 40 fawns per 100 does. And when we get into this 2009, 2010 period, there was a little bit of a pull-off on the gas, if you will, on that herd. And then it seemed to defy what I thought was what the habitat could support. And we had, as we have had throughout Pershing, Lander, probably some of the most severe drought periods over the last 3-4 years. Drought index is worst in the state, centered right over that area. Pronghorn do seem to be resilient more than any other species in overcoming those droughts. This particular herd, we do acknowledge that the summer water situation is the bottleneck. Winter range, it's huge area. Animals can scatter because they don't have to be tied to water. but during that July through September period, they've got to be within a mile or two of those waters, if not closer. So based on the inflection of this curve going south on the fawn ratios that are dropping here about 2009-10, even though we did have a really good year 3 years ago. The last 2 years really dropping. And I will acknowledge this last point here is from a small sample size, but I do think it's representative of what was happening out there. And based on these metrics, it seems that if the habitat was not limiting and we had ample amount of water and the drought was not affecting these herds, we would not see this big drop in fawn ratios. And I think where we were seeing this slow turn of this data set of the fawn ratio dropping, I am interpreting that as we probably are looking at least the current habitat conditions and drought conditions of 15 to 1,600 animals could be that limiting habitat sustainable level for that herd. And we may have overshot it, certainly going over 1,800. And so I think for us, we need to pay attention to this more and more. Again, statewide, many of these herds, I think, are reaching their carrying capacity, whatever it may be, whether it's winter range or in this case summer range and water resources, and start implementing some more aggressive management actions to maintain them at or preferably below these sustainable levels. So that's, just want to give a little bit of background of where we're coming. Probably have the same similar graph for the large unit group, 141 through 156 in central northern Nevada, from Battle Mountain down to Austin. That herd has really sustained a lot of drought impacts. So anyway, just a little bit of background on the whys for some of our increases in doe quotas.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, any questions in Las Vegas?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Any questions, Elko? And if not, do we have any comment, Rena? Joe?
Joe Krim, Persian Cab. I appreciate Mike selling my program before I get up here, because we were highly opposed to going up to 261% on the does. We had for the second year, our population has gone down, actually 7% since last year. Our post-season buck ratio was 35 to 1, or 100, like he said. Our fawn ratio has declined for the second year in a row. To take our tags from 28 to 101 for does in 1 year, that's crazy. We had no problem with a 3% increase, which is 38 tags. We feel that is sustainable, and that would work. But a 261% increase is just crazy. Come on, Mike, give me a break here on this. On the preseason count, on our count, they did count the antelope in that area at a little different time of the year. They only seen 28 bucks, 80 does, 17 fawns. Those are crazy numbers. That unit stretches from the Nixon Highway to Winnemucca. That is a huge area. There's a lot of ground to cover in there. There's a lot of water in there. Those antelope will hang in there and they will survive. So we'd like to see the tags cut back to 38 instead of 101.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, I have a question for you, Mike. in 041, 042, you recommend 101. Last year it was 28. What was our hunter success last year out of 28?
It was pretty good. I'll look it up here quick.
54.
%. So we harvested 23 out of the 28.
Higher than I thought. Commissioner Drew?
Mike, maybe you can explain to me if there's a significant difference between kind of taking it in one big chunk like you've proposed or taking it stepwise like Pershing and Humboldt, I think, have recommended. A little bit slower acceleration on some of that harvest versus a larger bite, you might say.
I think if we take a look at both Western Pershing and Central Nevada, that 141 through 156, many people may not remember, but our quota of 200 tags last year in 141 was very aggressive. We really felt we had the same situation going on, that we overshot the habitat carrying capacity, and we needed to try to jump on it. And we may be too late. Sometimes we're slow in trying to get information out, trying to get people to appreciate the biology of these animals and the limitations of the habitat. So even if we get 80 harvested this year in 4.1 and 4.2, I still think it could be above its short-term habitat carrying capacity of that 1,600. So percentages, you have to look at the actual numbers here, and we've got a herd of 1,700 animals-ish, and I think 100, in some respects, I know a couple of our biologists were saying, well, why not even more if you're serious about getting it below carrying capacity? So I don't think 100 is crazy. No disrespect to Joe. We're just trying to do the right thing for these herds. I was going to show you, but it was brought up that we do have buck ratios that have declined. We forced that. We were statewide at 40 bucks per 100 3-4 years ago, and we told ourselves that we had a lot of opportunity that we've left on the table, and we've pushed most of our herds and the statewide average down around 34, 35 bucks per 100, and absolutely it has reduced our horn length metric on our buck harvested. But I think these drought conditions are so severe that I think we need to act now.
Commissioner McNish.
So Mike, what was the recommended quota for 2013 in 041, 042?
It was probably, I think it was probably 28, yeah.
Because I remember a discussion on it, and I thought that we had reduced some of the quotas.
We may have given in a little bit, I just don't remember.
And my comments are going to play across the board on multiple species here. But we've often, as a commission, tried to go along with the calves' conservativeness. And knowing where we ended up with bighorn sheep. And I said it on the record, we should have had a U-hunt 3 years ago instead of starting it this year. We're late on a lot of things. And we're the social end of everything that goes on. But sometimes we might not recognize biology as far as we need to in making our decisions. And I'm reluctant to not listen to biology in some of these situations on doe harvest, just because I know the mistakes we've made in the past on our elk herds and or sheep. So I'm gonna have to listen to biology. Commissioner Young.
I echo your comments. You know, I sat there yesterday and said that I think sometimes we get a little too into the minutia, and I have tremendous respect for the work that the people in the field do. They're out there all year long, actually counting and understanding these animals, and I think we got to be very, very careful. I understand that the aspect, it puts a lot of hunters in the field in a very short period of time, and that certainly impacts the hunt. But I agree with you, Mr. Chairman, and you guys, we gotta support our biologists.
Any other comment? Commissioner Drew?
Real quick question for Mike. Was this presented at these cabs? I mean, was what you just kind of went over, was it kind of highlighted at the cab level so that the cab could understand the situation that we were in and why you guys were wanting to increase this harvest? I'm sure it probably wasn't at this detailed level, but was that discussion had?
I wasn't at the Pershing County meeting. I was there 2 years ago, but I didn't attend, so I don't know what was discussed.
Okay.
Commissioner Drew?
I guess the only thing I'd say, I agree with Bill, and, you know, just because I don't go completely with an end-out recommendation, there's no disrespect to the people who work for the department, so I want to make that clear. I mean, they basically probably have one of the most dangerous jobs in the state, just going out and counting some of these animals in a helicopter every year. So, you know, if I don't agree with them 100%, it's no disrespect. You know, and at the same time, I value what the cabs have to say because they're on the ground, you know, living this stuff every day too, and probably some of those members are probably more familiar with some of those animals than I know anyone up here, just because they live in that area and they see it on a day-to-day basis. So kind of where I'm at on this is it sounds like there's some questions in terms of where we're at on that population curve. I'd be willing to split it between what the department's recommending and what the cabs are recommending. I do think the cabs recommendation may be a little bit conservative, but that's just kind of where I'm at.
Commissioner McBeth.
Mike, when we talked about the harvesting of cow elk, which we've been very aggressive, it's kind of counterintuitive, but what's happened there is that the population just is, it's like an engine that just, we're having a hard time getting under control. Is it the same thing with the pronghorn antelope, that if we, manage these emergence in zone harvest, do we see that kind of vigor? Are we going to expect that kind of vigor for this population?
Yeah, well, research says, and some of our field man savvy says that density-dependent reproduction, compensatory mortality, where you really put the screws to a population in terms of harvesting at an optimal level or below an optimal level. If the resources are there, it will respond in a positive manner. And for pronghorn, again, in theory, it is the most twinning ungulate we have in Nevada. And so it has the greatest potential to do that. And so I mean, there is, I think, that at an optimal level, where you keep these populations lean and mean, they're generating, ratio-wise, more young per adult does at one level than they would if it was really higher or really, really low. And you just keep feeding that animal as long as that habitat can support. And the other thing I kind of breezed over, again, was the buck quality that we've had. I will acknowledge that we have had a drop in the metric of our horn length and also our buck ratios, but it was an opportunity we felt we could take advantage of. And now looking back at these droughts, it probably wasn't a bad thing. With these drought conditions, you're not going to get trophy pronghorn bucks grown. The horn length is definitely going to be impacted by poor winter moisture and poor spring moisture. But I definitely see an opportunity to discuss, once we get some of these herds kind of lean and mean, of re-looking at some of these buck ratios and seeing if we could maybe increase those slightly and provide a little bit more quality. But I do believe that it is a double-edged sword, and we found it in elk, that maybe we haven't harvested enough, and all we've done is stimulate production in some of the herds, and there's a break point in that in all species, and it's very variable by the habitat conditions of how much pressure do you put on that female segment before you start seeing those density-dependent or compensatory responses.
Because right now, it seems like that the fawn, when you look at the graph, the fawn ratio has gone down. And so, but if we follow the recommendation, would you expect that to go back up, and so we end up at a higher spot?
Yeah, we may have to get down. I mean, it's gonna respond either to two things. One, we actually get rain falling out of the sky and get springs recharged and get grasses to grow, or a population of probably, just as we saw in that graph, when it was below 1,000 animals, it was racing out of control because it was well below its carrying capacity.
Any other questions? Anybody have a motion? Commissioner McGinch.
Mr. Chairman, I do this, Mike's hitting the words that concern me the most, are carrying capacity. We don't have a lot of opportunities to talk about it and really get into the real aspect of wildlife management when it comes to, herd health. And what I'm hearing from the department, and I'm sympathetic to what we're hearing from the cabs too, and I do agree, that they do see things on the ground, and but when I hear the department telling me that they're concerned about summer water resources and numbers and getting a herd lean and mean again, that implies to me we're working on getting them in a position where they have an opportunity to survive and thrive. And so with that, I'm going to make a motion that we adopt, that we approve antelope, horned, shouldered ears, resident, any legal weapon hunt 2181 as proposed by the.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner McGinch, second by Commissioner Young. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Commissioner Drew is a nay.
Okay, we have the suite of non-resident hunts for the rifle hunt 2251 for the horns longer than ears buck hunt, the buck archery hunt 2261, and we're pretty close to the 10% rule. We're close. What causes grief for me is for species like elk, and antelope was there. We didn't have a companion hunt for every unit group in the state for resident and non-residents. And as we got into that 10 tag quota for our residents, then we would open up that companion non-resident. So I have to try to go into some of the larger deer or pronghorn herds and shift some tags so we end up statewide getting close to 10% opportunity for the non-residents.
Okay. Any public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve non-resident antelope horns longer than ears, any legal weapon hunt 2251, and non-resident antelope horns longer than ears longbow archery hunt, 2261, is recommended by the department.
We have a motion by Commissioner Young, second by Commissioner Bliss. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passed unanimous.